One. It's Emil. It's Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. Welcome to my takeout. Emil Amok's takeout, my takes and all things considerable. This is a show we subtitled WDAAAT. What does an Asian American think? Sometimes you leave out the and Asian American. Just say, what does an Asian American WDAAT? What that? That's what we're talking about, because they never ask us, right? But we pop up. We're not just crazy rich Asians, we're crazy poor ones, and our voices count, and people are noticing us, sort of. The Pope talk. First Asian Pope, not an Asian American, a Filipino. This guy, Cardinal Tagle. If you go to my Inquirer.net column, which is the website for the Filipino diaspora worldwide, I talk about Francis, and I'll talk about Francis today a little bit because I want to make sure I was not misunderstood. Francis is my Pope. I'm just not sure the Catholic Church is my church. And if anyone would be my Pope, it would be Francis. And now he's appointed the majority of the cardinals will be voting, and so maybe we will see a continuation of Francis, his ideas, because the conclave, they'll vote, and maybe there will be a consensus, a Francis consensus. Maybe there are Francis coattails, and a Filipino national, Cardinal Tagle, he's possibility. There's also the possibility of a black pope. There's a cardinal in Ghana and a cardinal in Congo. The cardinal from Ghana probably has maybe a slight inside, route because he's older. If you're in your 60s, you're considered young. I know I've had it with the church and its rules. And as I explained in my column, I've had it with, just this idea that, every little move is a big move in the Catholic Church. I just didn't think Francis did enough. But maybe we'll see as the church has expanded to include more Africans, more Asians. Maybe they'll have a black pope. Maybe we'll have an Asian pope. Boy, that would be something. That would be something. A person of color as the Catholic leader spiritually? Like I said, the guy from Ghana is older, so he might have an inside track. They say if you're in your 60s, 65, 60, you're too young. But, Francis was what? He was 88 when he passed on. And he was, 76? Right? He was there 12 years. So someone in their 70s might be prime. So anyway, we'll look at that. But today I want to talk about Earth Day because the funniest thing I read today was really a statement from the White House. I mean, I couldn't believe what I was reading. Because the White House is kind of in an embarrassed state, right? They wanted to be the economic, presidency because Donald Trump was going to bring down prices and solve our economic ills. And today we have the International Monetary Fund predicting that an economic slowdown induced by the U.S. tariffs will drag down most of the world's major economies. The United States, the big economic disruptor. You thought that Donald Trump was going to save us? Save your grocery bill? He's sinking the world. The U.S. propelled global economic growth for years. Now it's acting as a disruptor to the world economy, according to Axios. The U.S. economy is on track to grow 1.8% in 2025, slowing by a full percentage point from last year. The International Monetary Fund, their quarterly outlook is predicting a sharp downgrade from the IMF expected at the start of the year. The White House today signaled trade tensions with China could soon cool. We had the press secretary saying the president and the administration are setting the stage for a deal with China. Everyone involved wants to see a trade deal happen, and the ball is moving in the right direction. They have to say that because they are stuck. They want to talk about the economy because it's the number one issue that everyone voted for, and yet look at where the Trump policies have taken not just the U.S. economy, but the world economy in the dumper, right? So what does Donald Trump put out? I'm on, the internet, and I get the press release for the day. Instead of talking about the economy, they say, on Earth Day, we finally have a president who follows science. Oh my God. A president who follows science. This is the president who said, drink bleach to fight COVID. Here's a president who follows science. Does the White House press secretary think we're all stupid? Donald Trump follows science? But this is the propaganda today that the White House is issuing for immediate release. The White House, Office of Communications. On Earth Day, we finally have a president who follows science. Yes. He wants you to have, he's ending the forced use of paper straws. Yeah, okay. The forced use of paper straws. Okay, that's nice. Meanwhile, compare that to all that Joe Biden did. Joe Biden did a ton compared to paper straws. And just the undoing of what Biden did qualifies Donald Trump as the least green president we could ever imagine. I mean, he wants us off of the Paris Accords. He's ending, any deals globally that acknowledge climate change. And this was, along with migrants, this was a big deal for Francis. Climate change, migrant policy. I mean, Francis had some real choice words for Trump. Remember in the first Trump term when Trump was saying, we're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. And Francis had some choice words for a president who is more into dividing us with walls than bringing us together. So, Donald Trump is the anti-Francis. And yet, they're trying to counter that by saying, on Earth Day, we finally have a president who follows science. Yes. Do away with the forced use of paper straws. And according to the White House press release, it says paper straws contain dangerous PFAS chemicals, forever chemicals linked to significant long-term health conditions that infiltrate the water supply. Moreover, studies have found producing paper straws can have a large carbon footprint and require more water than plastic straws for approximately zero environmental impact. Oh yeah, they are so green, the White House. So why are they doing away with the Biden initiative to move toward electric cars? Why are they moving away from the climate accords, the Paris Accords? Why are Funniest thing I read today, this press release. On Earth Day, we finally have a president who follows science. Under President Donald J. Trump, America is back, leveraging environmental policies rooted in reality to promote economic growth, while maintaining the standards that have afforded Americans the cleanest air and water in the world for generations. Yeah. Unlike the previous administration, which wasted billions of taxpayer dollars on virtue signaling and ineffective grifts. Oh, funny to hear Trump use the word, or his press secretary use the word grifts. Grifting, that's a Trump thing. The Trump administration's policies are rooted in a belief that Americans are the best stewards of our vast natural resources. No green new scam required. Yeah, Americans left to their own devices. How green are they going to be? Not without leadership. And when the leadership says, oh, go ahead and pollute all you want. Go ahead and be less green. The only green we care about is the money that's not in your pocket. Because we can't talk about the Trump economy because there is no Trump economy. The Trump economy is a bad economy. So what a sham. On Earth Day, we finally have a president who follows science. Not exactly. And what's he doing? He's going to encourage coal. He's going to try to jumpstart the coal industry. He's going to let the coal miners breathe all that bad air. All the regulations that have been, not just the Biden administration, the regulations that have been enforced for decades. Many administrations before. The Trump administration is undoing. Anytime you put someone who's a non-environmentalist, someone who's a non-green good guy into roles like the EPA, you're just going through the motions on Earth Day. Anyway, it's a funny press release put out by the White House today. On Earth Day, we finally have a president who follows science. Yes, the very guy who said, yeah, drink bleach and to fight COVID. Yeah, that guy who doubted vaccines, a guy under whose stewardship 1 million Americans died because he could not come up with an effective way to communicate vaccine policy. We finally have a president who follows science. Ridiculous. And then it lists off the key actions that Trump is taking on the environment. He says, President Trump is promoting energy innovation for a healthier future by supporting cutting-edge technology like carbon capture and storage, nuclear energy, and next-generation geothermal. Oh, yeah. Building on President Trump's first-term successes, where the U.S. led the world in greenhouse gas emission reductions. Oh, yeah? Really? Well, then why was he so quick to try to end, our alignment with the Paris Accords? Nothing green about Trump. Anyway, this is the Trump administration. Oh, it brags about protecting wildlife. In between, hunting trips of his sons, they'll protect wildlife. It's just incredible. The funniest thing, if you can get a hold of it, it's the press release, Earth Day press release of the White House. On Earth Day, we finally have a president who follows science. Yep. But what can you do? What can you do if you can't talk about the economy? The economy is a winning issue, or should have been, until Trump destroyed the economy. Let's hope he brings it back. Let's hope. I don't know. All right. I'd like to keep these things short because I feel like I'll go on for an hour because there's a lot to talk about in the hour. One thing, there's some AP stories that just moved within the hour. CBS has capitulated to apparently, to the Trump administration. One of the 60-minute producers, big time 60-minute producers, is leaving. This is the beginning. And I would suggest you pick up the book, How Fascism Works, to see how step by step the Trump administration is attacking the courts, attacking higher ed, attacking the media, attacking institutions, creating distrust. And I don't want to say he's winning, but I am saying once you puncture our institutions enough times, enough to create distrust, create a lack of faith, and once you continuously badmouth our institutions, going after the courts, going after higher ed. Harvard, by the way, is suing the Trump administration for withholding money, withholding due process. It's always due process. Now, people could, shrug and say, oh, what's due process? Due process is everything. Due process says, yeah, you can hire an attorney, you can go before the court, and you can see if something that's happening to you is fair. That's due process. And when you take away due process, what do you have? You have everyone agreeing to whatever the loudest person says. And right now, the loudest person is Donald Trump. Not good. Not good. There should be checks and balances. The court is one. And right now, Donald Trump isn't even listening to the courts, right? Court says Abrego Garcia must come back. Is he? Court says don't deport those people from Texas using the Alien Enemies Act. I think they've stopped that, but we shall see. But this is where Donald Trump wants to play because he can't play with the economy. And really, he can't really play on his administration so green, so environmental. Oh, no. Not when you have the regulators deregulating everything. And when you have the regulars, well, it's the fox guarding the henhouse situation. Not good. Not good. So, but this is what's happening. Take note, because you might wake up and it's all gone. Too late. You don't want to be caught being late on this one. So that's it. I'm not going to go on. I do want to say this about Francis. I said this in my column in the Inquirer that I like everything about Francis, except I don't think he went far enough. I like the fact that he got a foot in the door to create a situation where maybe we could start rectifying some of those problems. But is the abuse situation ever going to be eradicated? They paid $5 billion since the 2000s. I don't even think that's the total amount of monies that they've ever paid. I just don't know. But I will say this. I think this is kind of the bottom line. If there's a black pope, if there's an Asian pope, if the church shows a new direction, like continuing the momentum of Francis, man, it would be hard not to jump on that bandwagon and say, yeah, this is a church worth coming back to. I think that's just my initial feel. I haven't seen Conclave. I didn't rewatch it last night. after getting the news about Francis. But if you imagine, out of the 130 or so cardinals who get to vote, Francis has appointed the vast majority of them, enough to get 2/3. If there's a consensus, we might see an historic pope. And I don't think I'm speaking out of school before, he's, lying in state. His funeral isn't until Saturday. But I think we need to think about some of these things before, because who the next pope will be, I think that's important. That's important. And that'll be a signal. That'll be a signal that the white smoke is signaling a pope who is a person of color. All right, we'll wrap it up quick here now. I have to go to a poetry reading. We like to end with a little loving kindness, because the Pope is right. It's all about love. I speculate if the pontiff would have forgiven Donald Trump or J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is Catholic. Would the pontiff have taken confession or heard confession of J.D. Vance? And I said, I don't know if there are enough Hail Marys. If a human could say enough Hail Marys to be fully granted penance for being the butt boy of Donald Trump. I don't know. But it's funny, J.D. Vance, last U.S. official to see the Pope alive, and all he got was apparently a Vatican tie and some Easter candies. Anyway, it's all about love. Love, love. Show out the love, send it out, it comes back twofold. So we end our show with this loving kindness meditation. As I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Till next time.